All right, let's get started. Welcome to Consulting Growth Hour, my favorite time of the week, and I hope yours as well. So we've got Michael, Wakar, Mohammed Siddiqui, and how do I pronounce your first name? I know we're connected on LinkedIn. Is it Hamish? Hamish? I hope you're there. Oh, hello, Miles. Good to see you. All right, so let's dive in. Welcome to Consulting Growth Hour. Topic for today is winning habits of consulting business owners. And who this is for is consulting business owners that have a strategy, HR, operations, marketing, sales, leadership, IT, or any practice that serves organizations. Now, currently, you may have a few clients. You may have different types of projects and clients, not homogenous. Client work takes some time. Different types of projects, different types of clients. There is a learning curve from client to client. You want to land better clients, of course. You want to increase your revenue. You want to increase your profitability and work less at the same time. Now, this is not impossible. There is some work to be done to get to this stage, but it's definitely possible. And I want to share with you my experiences of what I did when I faced a lot of overwhelm in my consulting business. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Faheem Moosa. I'm a former management consultant. I founded a management consulting business in 2009 in Toronto called Springboarders, focused on strategic planning and business planning. And I've served many types of industries, more than 30 industries, and worked with small, mid-sized, large corporations, for-profit, non-profit, provincial government, municipal government. So essentially worked with a lot of different types of clients and industries before specializing in strategic and business planning for academic researchers and innovators. So pretty specific. So that's been my journey in consulting. Now, why did I choose this topic today? Winning habits for consulting business owners. So let me just take you back. I'll start off with a little story. Let me just take you back to 2010. The world has just seen one of the worst recessions. And at that time, we were still kind of going through it or kind of getting back on our feet. 2008, 2009 was the Great Recession. And I started my business at that time. And this was 2010, where I landed a pretty decent client, a big client, that was paying me, tens of thousands of dollars per month. And it was a client that I had excellent rapport with. It was an outsourcing / IT company, and they were growing pretty fast. Given the circumstances, given the economic circumstances of the day, big office, you walk right in. There was a nice, huge waterfall, gave the entire space a nice, serene feeling. It was one of those places where every time you go in, the receptionist would hand you a glass of water, treat you really well. It felt at home. That client just going into the office, and this was before my remote working days. You had to go to the office, the client's office, and be there and do the work. And it felt at home. The money was good, and everything was going fine until the client got very used to me and used to my services and kept saying, okay, hey, can you do this? Can you do something else? Can you do this other thing? We have this challenge, et cetera, et cetera. And, for a consultant, for a new business owner, those days, the way I thought about it was, I needed cash flow, right? Cash flow is the most important thing. And, you can't say no to good money. And I would say yes. I would say yes to a lot of things. So I became the client's yes man. And took on a lot of work. And before I knew it, I started, 80% of my business came from that client. At the back of my mind, I knew that this was a risky situation, because at any time you would, if I lost that client, then 80% of my income is gone. Right. And part of the reason I started a consulting business was because I wanted to diversify my income, not be, dependent on one single employer. And here I was as a business owner, again, dependent on one client. And here's the other habit that I had, that I felt that most things could be done by me. Most things, I could do things better than anybody else in my business. So I would tinker with a lot of things in my business that I probably should not have. So the situation was that I had 80% of my income dependent on one client. I didn't have a team of any sort. I was doing all the work myself. I was taking on more work, which was slightly outside of my core area, but I was doing it because, those are the only opportunities that were coming my way. I did not have a way of getting new clients, or a way of, retaining the current client, but making sure that I only took on work that spoke to my expertise. And then on the other side, I was doing a lot of things myself, a lot of business stuff, like busy work myself. So that was my situation back then. And that's when I, realized that if something goes wrong, I may have a problem. And, Murphy's Law, anything that can happen will happen. Something did go wrong. I ended up losing the client, for a number of reasons. Part of the reason was that the client could tell that I took on a lot of work that I probably should not have taken on, and the quality of my work went down slightly. It was a big learning experience for me. And part of the reason was that, the client lost another client, and they had to reorganize. So, from one day where I was earning tens of thousands of dollars, the next day I had no client. I did have some small clients, but, I lost 80% of my income. And it was a big learning experience at that time. And that's when I realized that I needed to have a different way of running my business. I needed to, learn how this is done. So that's when my learning journey started, right? And to cut a long story short, I found that the way consultants that really have it together, the way they operated, was very, very different from the way I operated back then. And so I realized that there are 4 things that consulting business owners can do, 4 habits that they can cultivate, or 4 big themes that they can focus on to run their business in a way which, makes them land better clients, or increase their current the current revenue with their current clients, and increase their profitability, end up working less, not burning out, and enjoying the process. That's what you want as a consulting business owner, right? And at that time, I wasn't in that space. So here's what I learned. I'm going to share with you what worked for me, and then if it makes sense to you, just take whatever resonates with you and apply it to your business. Okay. So let me start off with this. Let me start off with how consultants operate. Okay. And since for the past few years, I've been helping consulting business owners land new clients, increase their revenue profitability. So I've been working with a lot of consulting business owners. And I notice that this is how a lot of us operate. And this is how I operated as well. Number one, we're advisors and consultants. We love helping. Okay. We love helping people. We're really proud of the knowledge and expertise that we have, right? That's why we became consultants, because we know that we have something that can benefit potential clients. and we find ourselves as advisors and consultants. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is that we love solving problems. All you folks are consultants. I'm sure just the fact that you are consultants and advisors, I know that you love solving problems, right? You're highly analytical folks, right? You love being in the thick of things. You love rolling up your sleeves and doing stuff, right? Number three, you guys pride yourselves on your skills, and you feel that, you can do stuff better than anybody else, right? Right. Anything in your business. And, you just jump in. Whenever there's a problem, you jump in and you end up doing it. Now, I understand that a lot of you, in this live audience and the folks that are listening on the podcast, the recorded podcast, some of you may have moved on from this, these three types of mentality that I just talked about. But a lot of you are still in that zone where you love to help, and you just jump in head first. You love solving problems. You're highly analytical, and that gives you satisfaction. So you just love to jump in on any problem, even though certain problems you should not be jumping in head first. And you feel that you can do things the best, and so you do them, right? So that's my understanding of consultants. That's my observation. And because of this mentality, here's a couple of things that happen really fast in our profession, right? You take on a lot of client work, and you do a lot of client work. You focus on a lot of client work because that's where you shine the most. And because you're a problem solver, you feel that you need to be focused on client work all the time. And of course, your client's paying you, right? So you've got to protect your cash flow. So your focus is there. The other thing that happens is that you end up doing a lot of low yielding tasks. I call these tasks low yielding tasks because they just come up in your business, and you just end up doing these things, but they don't yield high opportunities. They don't yield anything positive in the long term, because they can easily be done by other people, but you end up doing them. Things like designing a PowerPoint presentation. I understand that when you present something to the client, intellectually, it's got to be your material, right? But then we get so focused on designing the perfect PowerPoint, tinkering with that presentation, formatting it, making sure that it looks great. And before you know it, you've lost a couple of hours. It happens a lot to a lot of consultants. And that stuff can be easily given to somebody else, your executive assistant, or somebody that specializes in PowerPoint design. Number two, creating a fancy website. Consultants love to tinker with websites. I have a love-hate relationship with websites. I don't even feel that in the early days you need a website. You don't need a website. You can do well with a well-written LinkedIn page and some smart outreach. Okay, but this discussion is for another day. But creating a fancy website is something that consultants love to do. And when they don't have anything to do, they find the website or the blog, your blog, to work on, and you kind of upload articles on your blog. That's another thing that that happens. That's busy work. Graphic design, we've talked about that. Internet research, type in the chat. Those of you who love to go on the internet and start researching all kinds of stuff. For a client project, I understand there are certain things you look for, but is this something that happens with you folks, where you need to find something out, and you end up doing a lot of research? It's a common habit. And, if you don't check yourself, you're going to keep doing a lot of this stuff, and you're going to spend hours doing it. Booking your own travel, again, personal. It's not just business busy work. It's personal busy work as well. Like a lot of these tasks come up where you feel that, oh, it's just a one-off thing. I'll do it. But those one-off things add up, right? Booking your own travel, commuting when you don't have to. Like, do you have to commute for that meeting, or can you do a Zoom meeting? Right? These are just some examples that I'm just presenting to you here, but then you can think about in your own life, like, what are the things that you keep doing that don't yield much to those goals of increasing your revenue and profitability, and working less and landing better clients and so on, right? As a business owner and as a consulting business owner, that's what you want to be doing. You want to figure out, assuming that you want to grow, right? I'm talking to consultants that want to grow their business, and thus the show is called Consulting Growth Hour. So assuming that you want to grow your business, you want to be focused on landing better clients, landing either they're landing better engagements, rather. Like it's not always about new clients. It's about building your existing relationships and making them into better engagements, increasing your revenue, increasing your profitability, having better pricing, better deals, and not working yourself to the ground. Because if you're not careful, that can happen. So those are the low yielding tasks that often rear their ugly head, and which you end up doing, right? So type in the chat if this resonates. And if you're listening to the recorded conversation, send me a note on LinkedIn or an email. You'll have my information in the show notes. And tell me if this resonates with you, and tell me what types of tasks you do and what pulls you in. So I see some questions. I will be taking them on. But type in the chat and let me know if this resonates, and if you find yourself being sucked into tasks that may not yield those big results that I talked about. Right. So we talked about low yielding tasks, but what should you be doing? What should you be focusing on as a consulting business owner? These are what I call high yielding activities. I have 4 of them, 4 broad categories, and those are the 4 habits that I'd like you to focus on. Because at the end of the day, you can call them tasks, you can call them activities, but those are the focus areas that you should be looking at, and you should inculcate into your daily routine and make them habits. Number 1, planning. It may seem very trite, where it may seem very cliched and obvious that you've got to focus on having a plan. But here's the thing, and not many of us do it, and I certainly didn't. And here's what I mean by planning. Okay, I got 3 things: learning, strategy, and delegation. That's what I mean by planning. So learning includes stuff like this that you're doing right now. You are learning how to build a better business. You are learning how to run your practice better, right? And there are many ways to do that. There's lots of literature out there. There's lots of communities like this, people that serve advisors, and there are lots of good ones out there. So as long as you're plugged into certain communities or certain folks that help advisory businesses, you're on the right track. Okay. When I talk about strategy, that's also part of planning, is about your business strategy and your marketing strategy. And those are that essentially comes down to 3 things. right? Who you serve, what you do for them, and the value that you provide to that audience. Oftentimes, you don't think about these things because things move really fast in your business, and you don't think about who it is you serve. Like that question, who you serve, can really make or break your business. It's not about what you do. It's not about, you know, all the fancy strategies and tactics that you have that you can come up with. If you can figure out, if you can really focus and consider and think about who it is specifically that you serve and why you serve that type of individual or buyer within an organization, it could really change your business for the better, right? Because if you want to double your income, and a wise mentor once told me this, if you really want to double your income, double your focus and understanding of those that you serve. Automatically your income will double. And even before doubling your understanding, it's choosing that entity or organization or buyer to serve, right? That's part of planning. A lot of the times we just, because our business is driven by referrals, we kind of simply choose or simply pick clients based on who's referred to us, right? In the beginning, our business is truly most of our consulting businesses, most of our business for consultants are, driven by referrals. And when you get referrals coming into your business, you don't have the luxury of kind of handpicking who you work with. Sometimes you need the business, you need the work, and then you kind of choose to change a little bit about a little bit of your solution and decide to work with that business, right? This happened to me a lot earlier, right? I used to get referrals, and I told you that I've worked with 30 different industries. I've worked with small clients, mid-sized clients, large clients, nonprofits, for-profits, provincial government. That in Canada that's the equivalent of a state government, municipal government, local governments, and a lot of the times, I had to take on any client that came my way because I didn't have a prospecting strategy, which we'll come to next, right? And I didn't have a plan. I did not have a very firm idea of who I was going after, right? So when it comes to planning, you really have to consider and think about who your market is and who your audience is. And the way I do it is that my habit when it comes to planning is that I revisit this every 90 days. Because in our world, things change pretty fast. If you're a large organization, maybe 90 days is too often. But for me, I visit it every 90 days, and I base my planning on feedback that I get from my current clients and what I'm hearing in my discovery conversations with prospects and so on. And if there is a need to change, I would tweak my strategy. I would change it. If there isn't, then I would just keep moving forward in the same way, right? So we talked about learning. We talked about strategy. The third thing in the planning category is delegation, right? This goes back to all those low yielding tasks that I talk about. But delegation is not just about low yielding tasks. As you grow your consulting business, you'll need associates to work with you, depending on the type of business, depending on the type of projects you get. Like when I started receiving, getting high five-figure projects, like $60,000, $80,000, I couldn't deliver those projects myself, right? Especially when I, started getting multiple projects. So I needed to hire associates, and that takes time, right? But even before you hire associates, you need to make sure that you have the time to focus on that and not focus on low-yielding tasks. So the first thing you do when you start to kind of get busy with client work is that you need to hire a virtual assistant or an executive assistant. I mean, a lot of us don't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't know that I had to do it. But it's one of the best investments you can ever make. And here's the thing. The best investments you can ever make in your career or in your business is buying back your own time, right? As a business owner, your time is far, far, far more precious than other resources like money or like other people, or even your energy. First thing you got to focus is, you buy back your time, and then you can, focus on the other resources. So buying back your time is the best investment, and you don't need to spend more than a few $100s a month on an assistant, right? I have a virtual assistant right now, and I don't spend more than a few $100s on the assistant. She's in the Philippines, and for her it's big money, but I get a lot of work done, and I get a lot of stuff off my plate. I cannot imagine running a business without that executive assistant. Those of you who are in this space right now where you are overwhelmed by a lot of work and a lot of busy work, a lot of low yielding tasks, make sure you take that step and hire an assistant. It's going to pay off multiple times. All right, so that's the first habit. Focus on planning, strategy, and delegation. Planning, which includes learning, strategy, and delegation. And of course, for this session, I'm only going to be talking about all high level topics. We can go deep into each of these topics, but the purpose of these sessions is to help you think differently, help you consider different ideas, help you question your current practices, and hopefully then take some action that brings about some change, right? So I'm gonna you'll hear me talk about high level. We'll have a high level discussion alone on these topics, and then whatever makes sense for you in your situation, take that and try and make a change, right? So the first habit is planning, right? The second habit is prospecting. It sounds pretty obvious, but we consultants don't have a consistent prospecting plan because we're so focused on client delivery. We're so focused on making sure that our clients are taken care of. You guys are good people, right? I'm not just saying that just to win favor, but consultants like to help their clients. I certainly do, right? And that's why I became a client pleaser, a yes man. Yes, I'll do it. I'll help you with this other thing. I'll help you with that other thing, even though I don't fully have the expertise for that, right? So we get busy with client work, and as a result, we don't make time for prospecting. We don't have a plan, and we end up taking on work that we shouldn't be doing in the first place, right? As an advisor, your value lies in focusing on your core expertise and what makes you valuable to your constituents, to your clients. And for the most part, doing only that. Yes, there may be sometimes, maybe 5% of the time you'll be doing something else. That's inevitable. It happens to everyone. But for the most part, for the majority of your work and the clients that you take on, you want to be focusing on what makes you most valuable, what makes you tick, what you consider your best skill in solving your client's problem, right? So when you don't have a prospecting plan, your business goes awry. right? And when I say prospecting plan, what do I mean? I mean having a plan for referrals, right? Your consulting business, this is a game of relationships. So you want to make sure that you have a solid plan to land new referrals from your current clients, from your past clients, and your network, right? Your existing network and, new people that you meet, right? That's going to be, as far as I've seen, that's your number one source of new business, right? And these referrals, again, are not just random referrals. You have to have a targeted plan to land targeted referrals based on your core expertise and based on what you do best. Today, you have tools like Sales Navigator, like LinkedIn, where you can source targeted referrals, right? There are ways to do that and ways to make this process efficient. If you don't have an efficient process, then again, you're going to go get back into that cycle of, okay, just taking on any work that comes your way for any fees, and then, um, not running an efficient practice, right? So prospecting is having a plan for referrals. Prospecting is also writing. Like as consultants, there are two main ways I believe that you can further your practice, especially when you want to land, clients that are in the mid-sized category of business. Like small businesses, I believe I define them as companies that have 1,000 or less employees. The mid-sized category, I believe, 1,000 to 5,000 employees, and 5,000 plus, I believe, are large businesses. 5,000 and plus, those types of companies, yes, you can land them as clients, but a lot of the times they go for big name consulting brands. And, because there is, nobody got fired for hiring McKinsey. That's the attitude for a lot of large firms that hire consulting. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I believe that for smaller consulting firms, there's a number of opportunities. There's tons of opportunities in the mid segment, 1,000 to 5,000. And, to land those types of clients, you need to raise your profile as someone that shares their expertise publicly. So writing is a skill that can help you tremendously in the long term, mid to long term, when it comes to prospecting. So picking up that skill of writing and writing well and writing persuasively is an activity that will give you dividends for the long run, right? And then you have outreach. There are, I'm not very confident of proposing that you do cold outreach, right? There are other people that who would propose that. The way I like to talk to people that I don't know and meet people that I don't know is through sharing content and building relationships. And then once that happens, then you can do outreach to have a conversation. When you do cold outreach for and try and land conversations with people that you don't know at all, it may work on some occasions, but in my experience, and I've done this before, I say this from experience, is that the higher you go in terms of trying to reach C-level executives, VPs, and so on, high-level decision makers, I find that cold outreach works less. It's not the most efficient way of prospecting, but reaching out to folks that respond to your thought leadership, respond to your events and articles, and writing on social and so on, building those relationships, and then reaching out to them and just having a conversation, that works much better, right? So you need to be in a place where you do that. And that is work that will pay. That's high. This is high yielding work. It's not going to work, overnight. All of this prospecting stuff, takes time. Some of them are low hanging fruit, like referrals, which is why I recommend them. But you can't depend on referrals. You've got to go out there and share your expertise and your knowledge and build a profile, build a brand, build a reputation. So that takes time. So instead of doing your low yielding tasks, you've got to make time for prospecting, right? And you got to learn how to make the entire process efficient. Now, here's what I've realized in terms of, okay, how do you take prospecting and fit it into your week when you're so busy with client work, right? The way you do it is the mindset shift that I recommend is treat your business like as if it were a client. When we think about our clients, we tend to focus on them and we give them first priority, and then our business suffers. But what if you could treat your business as a client and dedicate 20% of your time for your own business, to grow your own business? So when I say 20% of your time, dedicate 1 day a week for your business. I keep saying this a lot, and you may have heard this before, but it's an important point, and so I repeat it a lot. So for me, what works in my business is I dedicate Fridays for my business alone. If you're a client, you're not getting time on my calendar on Fridays. I work with clients and I have specific times for them from Monday to Thursday. And Fridays is a day for my business. I do a lot of things like writing, having a meeting with my operations team, with my marketing team. If I have to record a podcast or a video, I'll do it on Fridays, and I'll just send it to the appropriate people on my team. So all of that stuff gets done on Fridays, and if I pack my Fridays with client work, then I would not be visible at all. And I've been doing this for a long time, for over 10 years, and for me it works. So for some of my clients, when I suggest this, it doesn't work, and I understand. And if it doesn't work, then figure out a process that works for you. For some of my clients, they like scheduling for the first 2 hours of every day. They wake up early. The first 2 hours of every day, they work on prospecting their business and working on their business and so on. And that's how they find their time, right? So do it if it makes sense to you, but I would say consider it, because I find that Fridays for me, and I'm talking about, back in my strategic planning days as well, where Fridays I felt that it was pretty light in terms of client meetings. Fridays where clients especially were in a better mood because the weekend was coming up. Some of them would just disappear in the afternoons and so on. And I just had a lot of time on Fridays. So then I just made sure that, okay, let's dedicate that time. Let's close my calendar. Unless there was a very, very urgent situation, then I would open it up. But that was just few and far between. But essentially, Fridays was my business, was a day for my business. And, looking back, I just thank myself. I'm grateful for the fact that, I did this. And it was a suggestion from a coach or a mentor that I had during those days that put this idea in my head. And it's worked for the last, 10 years or so. So I would suggest that think about time for your business and make it so that it is standard. Don't waver. Your business is your client as well. And if you're not going to treat your business that way, then you'll never get out of this cycle that we're talking about, this unhealthy cycle of just taking on more and more work from the same client, depending on one or two clients, and not working on your business, right? All right. So any questions so far, just please pop in the chat. If you're listening to the recording, if you have any questions, just reach out to me and let me know. Okay. So we talked about two habits and two high yielding tasks or activities. Number one is planning. The other is prospecting, right? Number three is discovery and learning how to take a warm prospect to a paying client. This is one of my favorite things because, just type in the chat if you feel that this is true. Okay. As a consultant, you feel that when you are in front of a prospect, if you land a meeting and if you're in front of a prospect, you feel that you can close the prospect. You have a confidence that you will close the prospect 80% of the time, or majority of the time. As long as you land the meeting, you're confident of closing the prospect. Type in the chat for those of you who feel that this is true for you. Most consultants I speak with feel this way. As long as I land the client, as long as I land the meeting, I can close the client, right? It's true for most consultants, and I can see in the chat that some of you are saying this is true. But here's the thing: this may be true. You may close the client. It may be true, but what you don't realize, what I didn't realize back in the day, is that without a process of knowing how to conduct that meeting, which is called discovery, without a process of discovery, a few things happen. You don't fully scope the deal the way it should be, which means you don't understand, you don't dig deep enough about the client's needs, and don't uncover real problems that the client is facing and the implications of those problems, right? You don't understand, or you kind of leave money on the table when it comes to sizing the deal and valuing the deal. So I'll come back to this. And number three, you increase your sales cycle, because the way you conduct that meeting, there are a few things that you need to be doing in that meeting so that you are decreasing the sales cycle. When I say sales cycle, I mean, the time it takes for that deal to close. So when you don't do proper discovery, right? When you don't uncover the needs of the client and know how to take that conversation and build value in that conversation, then you end up leaving a lot of money on the table, right? And I did this a lot early back in the day. Our deals in my business were, some of them are 6 figures, some of them are high 5 figures, but learning how to do discovery properly, and then looking back, I definitely left a lot of money on the table, right? And this is discovery is a skill that you want to be learning and you want to be focusing on. So if you folks like reading, pick up this book by Keenan. It's called Gap Selling. Some of you may have heard of it. It's a great book. I recommend it to anybody I speak with, and even some of my clients, and they've appreciated me for that because it's a good read. Understanding how to do good discovery. Gap selling is I'll put it in the chat a little later on, but read that book. This, of course, is a big topic. We need several sessions for this, but don't feel that just because you feel you can close a client when you land a meeting, don't feel that your problem is in lead generation or prospecting and not in discovery. Discovery also, it must be a focus, because you can scope the deals better. You can build value into the conversation and increase the size of the deal and your fees, and you can reduce your sales cycles. All of this screams profit. Revenue, of course, but all of this screams profit. You know how to do discovery well, you're going to increase your profitability. The more your profit increases, you'll have the luxury of hiring the right people and freeing yourself of a lot of work that you should not be doing as a business owner, right? So this ties in to that goal of, freeing up a lot of your time as a business owner and hiring the right people and running your business efficiently. Okay, so that's conversion and discovery. And finally, the fourth thing that you should be doing. So we talked about planning, we talk about prospecting, we talk about discovery. Now there's a fourth obvious thing that you should be doing as a consulting business owner. Put it in the chat. I want to see what you got. Okay, what's that fourth obvious thing that you should be doing as a consulting business owner? I don't want to, leave the folks that are listening to the recording hanging. So I'll say it. It's client delivery, right? That's an inevitable part of our world, especially as a small consulting business owner. Your clients hire you for your expertise, right? So at some level, even if you have associates or strategists or people doing the work for you, most consulting business owners are involved in execution work, client delivery work, right? So you can't fully escape that. For most of us, you can't fully escape that. So that has to be part of what you do, and has to be part of the high yielding activities that you focus on as a business owner. Okay, so let me ask you this. So what do you feel is lacking currently in your business vis-a-vis these four activities that I've laid out for you? So planning, prospecting, discovery, and client work. I just want to get some feedback on this, and I'll take some questions. So I'll also type in the name of that book, Gap Selling by Keenan, so you can check that out. So type in the chat, and as you're doing that, I'm going to be taking on some questions. Right. So Mohammed Siddiqui, you say, should we start using Chat GPT? Okay. So I like Chat GPT. It's definitely a great innovation. And this came up in one of my client sessions, in my client group sessions, where one of my clients asked the same question: should we start using Chat GPT? Now, Chat GPT can make your life easier in a lot of ways. For example, if you're creating content, it can help you summarize your content and make different formats of your content, and make that process a lot more efficient. So what I'm saying is that it can help you save time if you're a content creator. That's one way you can use ChatGPT. And there are a number of other use cases for that tool. But here's the overall thing that I want to tell you. You can get by as a consultant without tinkering too much with ChatGPT. It can become one of those low yielding tasks if you spend too much time on it, right? Learn it. Maybe spend half an hour or an hour reading about it and tinkering and tinkering with it, but not spending too much time on the tool just because everybody else is doing it. If I go on my LinkedIn feed right now, and there's so much information on 20 ways you can use Chat GPT for 20 different types of prompts, etc., etc. It can get really overwhelming, so if you can find one or two ways to use that tool to reduce your low yielding tasks, then by all means do it. But don't get too obsessed with it, because it can again be a time suck, especially for consultants who are overwhelmed with a lot of work. So Alex says, I'm down to 3 to 8 billable hours per week and turn off the internet when I have a non-meeting work to complete so I don't go researching. Yes, there are lots of tools that can help you turn off the internet. I think Freedom is a web app, is an app. It's called Freedom, and I think it's a Chrome extension, and it kind of blocks certain sites as well, uh, because you invariably kind of end up going to those websites and wasting a lot of time. And there are a number of other apps. So internet research is definitely a bane for a lot of us. So Michael Shapiro says, I'm still in a startup operation and tend to do everything: BD operations, invoicing, planning, and client work. Michael, consider hiring a freelancer to do the work. It's going to cost you a couple $100 or even $100 a month. You can get a good freelancer to do 10 to 15 hours of work for $100, and that'll take a lot of your time off your plate. And here's the thing, a lot of us feel that, oh, you know what, if I'm going to hire somebody, then I'll have to train that person, and that's going to take a lot of time. That's, I'll just rather do the work myself. Yes, for some tasks, that for one-off things, that may make sense. But if you're going to be doing certain things, repetitively, week after week, month after month, then it's worth taking the time to train somebody to do it and getting it off your plate. So Kenya Odur says, I went through the exercise of breaking out tasks by respective compensation ranges. Anything outside of what is aligned to my billable hour rate, I try to delegate. Not always successful at delegating, but I absolutely have the best of intentions. Yes, delegation can be a challenge. It's not easy because certain individuals like me and some of you like to be in control. I'm a bit of a control freak. I've learned to let go over the years, but I like to be in control. A lot of entrepreneurs are like that. So if you're like that, don't feel bad about it. It's innate in people like us. And you have to learn. You have to learn to let go and start to hire and trust other people. And anybody who delegates will tell you that when the tasks that they've ended up delegating, that they felt that they were the best at, they realized that there are other people who can do it better, much better than them. And it's such a relief when you find that other person, because you can't do everything yourself. So Fahd says, when you say who we serve, it is very different. People are different. CXOs are different. One needs to wear different hats. Does consulting need a framework? You did not mention it in planning nor in strategy. Yes. So yes, your consultants typically have a framework of how to solve problems, a framework or a methodology. You definitely, most consultants that I talk to have some sort of framework. Yes, I did not talk about it in strategy and in the planning, but you remember I said who you serve, what you do for them, and the value that you offer. So your framework is part of that, what you do for them, right? Consultants do need consultants. If you're solving a problem, you need a framework, right? So that's definitely part of your strategy, and I'm glad you brought that up. So thanks for that. Oh, okay. So the next thing you say, I didn't read that. I feel consulting needs no framework. It's like building DNA, but somehow a lot of industries, especially the IT, believes framework-led consulting, and it bounds consulting. It has to be uncharted. When it has to be consulting, has to be uncharted. Now, look, the way you solve your problems, the way you solve a client's problem is up to you. If you feel that you have a process, or you have, if you have a process and you have a framework, but if you feel that you can go in with a blank slate and solve a client's problem, then by all means do it, right? But the way I solve problems and the way many other consultants I know have solved problems, they have frameworks. And the reason that our frameworks exist is because you're solving a problem that is defined, right? When you define a problem and you know what that problem entails, then you can have a framework to go in and solve that problem in the most efficient way possible. That's what I believe, right? And you may believe something totally different, Fahd. It's totally fine, right? If it's working for you, then do that. If it's helping you achieve your goals, then do that. If you don't have a framework, it's not wrong, as long as it's working for you and it's serving you. All right. Mohammed Siddiqui says, do you have a permanent team? Currently, I don't. I just have a team of freelancers and contractors. I don't have a permanent team. As I grow, that may change, but currently, no. All right. So there are other comments. Thank you for those comments. Any more questions about any of these habits and potential challenges that you may be having? The other thing I'll say that I'll leave this for you to consider as well. A lot of this that I mentioned to you can be implemented on your own. It's completely possible. But I would also want you to consider getting support and help, right? And I'm not trying to hard sell you on anything. You know, if you know me, you know I don't hard sell anything. But this is something I help consultants with, consulting business owners with, six-figure owners, seven-figure owners as well. And if you need help with this, then definitely reach out. Or if you find somebody else that you trust that can help you with organizing your business in a way that helps you land more clients, helps you increase your fees, increase the value of your services, helps you convert better and increase the profitability of your engagements and so on, then definitely reach out and find a mentor and find a coach, because it'll shortcut, finding the right person and getting the right help will shortcut your path to success, right? Everything may be going well for you right now. But if you want to, reach wherever you want to go faster, then getting help may be worthwhile. So consider that. And, if you want to explore working with someone like me, then I encourage you to reach out, and then we'll have a conversation. Again, there's no obligation to buy or to work with me, but we can have a conversation and see if there's a right fit. And for a lot of you, it may not be the right fit. You may not be ready for it, but for some of you, it may make sense. So on that note, I want to thank you again for joining me and spending your precious 60 minutes with me. I'm always open to questions, so reach out to me. For those of you who haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request. Happy to connect and continue the conversation on LinkedIn. And of course, see you the next time around as well. The next session is an open Q&A. If you have a question on anything consulting growth related, send me a note on LinkedIn or via email, because I want to hear from your questions. I'm going to be taking questions in the next session. All right, folks, have a great rest of the day and weekend, and I will see you next time around.